Oh, so I was driving up here multiple times a week, sometimes 3 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, just depending on what sort of workload I had and what sort of time I could get on the laser. In the meantime, the tech shop was growing, and they had a limit of 2 hours on the laser per day. But you could always hop on if they were free and you were there and get more time. But it got to the point where on a Monday, I would call to get a reservation and they didn't have any time free until Friday. And so I was running into an issue where I was having a hard time meeting my customers' demands in terms of turnaround time and quantity that they needed. And so at that point, it was time to get my own laser. I bought a smaller laser before that, but it was called a hobby laser, and it did a lot of things well, but also not a lot of things well. So, I got to a point where I needed to get my big bad laser, which is pretty identical to the one we've got down the hall there, and did not have the funds in my account to do that. And so we had to kind of get creative on what we did. And I was able to get some financing from family, which was great. I didn't have to go through banks and try to do that whole thing. And then in order to make sure that we were able to make the payment, we sold our Corvette, which was one of the bigger sacrifices I've had to make for my business over the years. But it was a good trade-off and, allowed me to grow and do a whole bunch of things. And we had also had a baby at that point, so we couldn't really drive the Corvette around as a family anymore. So I purchased a laser. At the time, I was still running my business out of our upstairs bedroom at our house. So we had to get a laser upstairs around the corner. I had both of my daughters during the time that I was starting this business. I officially started it in 2014, and then I had my girls in 2015 and 2018. And so anytime that I was pregnant, boxes of cutting boards are not light. And so I had to call in favors from my husband or neighbors or anybody else to get these boxes moved up and down the stairs so that I could actually do the work that I needed to be doing. And then I was working through, going to different fairs and figuring out booth setups. And also in 2014, right when I started, I discovered that the U of A had a crafter's license for licensing logoed products. And I was able to get in as crafter license number 1, which meant that I could offer cutting boards and coasters with the U of A logos, which are very popular down in Tucson, as you can imagine. And then as my business grew, I actually upgraded that licensing to the full collegiate license, added on ASU as well, and had that for a number of years. And that was a lot of paperwork hoops to jump through is what that was, but most licensing things are. And then eventually we moved to our current house, which has its own workshop. I've got 24 foot by 34 foot of space, and finally got air conditioning during the pandemic, which was a blessing. I went a whole year without air conditioning in a steel building in Arizona, which was horrendous, but we made it through. And then the pandemic hit, and my kids were home from school, and my husband was working from home, and the base of my business is directly related to the real estate market, which was at the time booming. And so I ended up just basically doing a whole lot of runs of cutting boards where it was the same thing over and over again, 60 cutting boards in a day that are all the same design. And that got really boring, and I should have hired help at that time, but it was also, there was a lot of uncertainty with the pandemic and all of the things that were going on. And so instead I started looking into what are some ways that I can make this more efficient, and got real interested into things like robotic arms and other things that, automating the software side of things, where when you are doing a custom design, the order comes in through the e-commerce site. The name automatically goes into the file. It spits the file out. Didn't end up implementing a whole lot of those, but did a lot of research, have a lot of ways that it could be done, and then ended up stumbling across this degree program through searching robotics and other things to look at. And I just thought, oh, I didn't know that you could have a degree in innovation, and that sounds like something I could do. And so I put in my application at the beginning of July last summer and had my interview from the hotel on our first day in Hawaii. And then was accepted and decided to go to grad school. So here I am, and I think I'm going to stop talking now and ask if anybody has any questions.
All right.